The Martian dust swirled around Dr. Ju Park as she brushed away centuries of red soil from the artifact. Her hands trembled slightly as the ancient symbols came into view. "Sunwoo, you need to see this," she called to her colleague. Captain Sunwoo Kim crossed the excavation site, his environment suit whirring softly. "What did you find?" "These markings. They're not human, but they're about humans." Ju traced the alien script with her finger. "They were studying us." The discovery sent shockwaves through Earth's scientific community. The ruins on Mars weren't evidence of Martian civilization. They were observation posts built by visitors from beyond the solar system. As Earth's governments scrambled to process this revelation, deep space sensors detected approaching vessels. The message they broadcast was simple: Guardians return to the cradle. No one understood what it meant until the ships entered orbit and their occupants made their intentions clear. They called themselves the Custodians, and they had come to pay homage to what they believed was a dead civilization. Dr. Ju Park had not slept in 3 days. The symbols on the artifact glowed faintly under the portable lights in her lab tent. Outside, the Martian winds howled, but inside, the only sound was her quick breathing and the scratch of her pencil on paper. "This can't be right," she whispered to herself. The door to the lab tent zipped open. Sunwoo entered, removing his helmet. His face was tight with concern. "Mission Control just called. The UN Security Council is meeting right now. They want us to report our findings directly." Ju didn't look up. "I think I know what these symbols mean. They're dates, observations. This wasn't built by Martians, Sunwoo. This was built by something else that was watching Earth." Sunwoo moved closer to examine the artifact. It was a metal panel about 1 meter across, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. "How old is it?" he asked. "The initial tests say over 50,000 years. That's impossible, right? Humans weren't even human 50,000 years ago." Sunwoo touched the surface carefully. Maybe they weren't watching modern humans. Maybe they were watching our evolution. The satellite phone rang, breaking the tense silence. Sunwoo answered. His face went pale as he listened. "Ju, we need to pack up. Now, there are objects approaching Earth. Big ones." Back on Earth, the world's telescopes and radar dishes turned skyward. 27 objects, each the size of a small city, had appeared at the edge of the solar system. They moved faster than any human spacecraft, but slow enough to show they weren't trying to attack. In the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, screens displayed the approaching fleet. Leaders from every nation watched in silent fear. "They're slowing down," announced the NASA director. "Their trajectory will put them in Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours." President Lee of the Asian Alliance stood up. "Have they responded to our messages?" "Yes, Madam President." Just one phrase, repeated. "Guardians return to the cradle." Dr. Ju Park and Captain Sunwoo Kim were flown from Mars to Earth on an emergency shuttle. They arrived just as the alien fleet entered Earth orbit. Their ship had barely touched down when they were rushed to the UN headquarters. "Dr. Park, we need your expertise," said President Lee. "You discovered their outpost. Do you have any insights about their intentions?" Ju clutched her tablet, which contained all her notes and images from Mars. "The artifacts suggest they've been observing Earth for at least 50,000 years. They seem particularly interested in human development." On the main screen, the largest alien ship opened like a flower. A smaller vessel emerged and began descending toward Earth. The satellite phone rang, breaking the tense silence. Sunwoo answered. His face went pale as he listened. "Ju, we need to pack up. Now, there are objects approaching Earth. Big ones." Back on Earth, the world's telescopes and radar dishes turned skyward. 27 objects, each the size of a small city, had appeared at the edge of the solar system. They moved faster than any human spacecraft, but slow enough to show they weren't trying to attack. In the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, screens displayed the approaching fleet. Leaders from every nation watched in silent fear. "They're slowing down," announced the NASA director. "Their trajectory will put them in Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours." President Lee of the Asian Alliance stood up. "Have they responded to our messages?" "Yes, Madam President." Just one phrase, repeated. Guardians returned to the cradle. Dr. Ju Park and Captain Sunwoo Kim were flown from Mars to Earth on an emergency shuttle. They arrived just as the alien fleet entered Earth orbit. Their ship had barely touched down when they were rushed to the UN headquarters. "Dr. Park, we need your expertise," said President Lee. "You discovered their outpost. Do you have any insights about their intentions?" Ju clutched her tablet, which contained all her notes and images from Mars. "The artifacts suggest they've been observing Earth for at least 50,000 years. They seem particularly interested in human development." On the main screen, the largest alien ship opened like a flower. A smaller vessel emerged and began descending toward Earth. "They're heading for the ocean," said the military advisor. "Specifically, the Mariana Trench." Sunwoo looked at Ju. "The deepest part of the ocean. What could be there?" "I don't know," Ju admitted, but the Martian outpost had many references to water and depths. President Lee made a quick decision. "Dr. Park, Captain Kim, you're going to meet them. We're sending you on our fastest submarine." 12 hours later, Ju and Sunwoo found themselves 3 kilometers below the ocean's surface, approaching the alien vessel. It glowed with soft blue light that somehow didn't fade in the murky water. "Are you recording?" Ju asked the submarine pilot. "Everything. The whole world is watching this feed." The alien ship was smooth and oval-shaped, with no visible windows or doors. As they approached, a section of its hull simply disappeared, revealing an entrance. "They want us to dock," said Sunwoo. The pilot looked nervous. "Is that an order?" Ju nodded. "Yes." "Take us in." Inside the alien ship was a chamber filled with air, not water. Somehow, the opening had allowed their submarine to enter without flooding the space. The gravity felt normal. "They've created Earth-like conditions," Sunwoo observed as they cautiously exited the submarine. A door slid open on the far wall. A tall figure stepped through. It wasn't what they expected. The alien looked almost human, but with silver skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light. Its eyes were large and completely black. It wore no clothing, but its body had no distinct features beyond a generally humanoid shape. "Welcome, children of the cradle," it said in perfect, unaccented English. "I am Tahoe, speaker for the custodians." Ju stepped forward. "I am Dr. Ju Park. This is Captain Sunwoo Kim. We represent Earth." Tahoe tilted its head. "Earth, the cradle, home of the first ones." It paused, studying them. "You are alive. This is unexpected." "The first ones?" Sunwoo asked. "Your ancestors, the ones who seeded the stars, the ones who built the gates between worlds, the elder species." Tahoe's voice contained something like awe. "We believed you had perished long ago. We came to pay respects at your birthplace." Juwoo's scientific mind raced. "You're saying humans are an ancient spacefaring civilization?" "Not you," Tahoe clarified. "But those who came before. Those whose blood flows in your veins. The original humans who spread life across the galaxy before the Great Silence." Sunwoo looked skeptical. "If humans were so advanced, why don't we remember? Why are we only now reaching Mars?" Tahoe moved closer, its movements fluid like water. "That is the great mystery. The elder species vanished at the height of their power. Some believe they ascended beyond physical form. Others think they fell to some catastrophe. We came hoping to find answers in the ruins of their homeworld. Instead, you found us," Ju said softly. "Yes," said Tahoe. "Living descendants, unaware of your heritage. It changes everything." It extended a hand that seemed to glow from within. "Come. There is much to show you. Your ancestors left messages, not just on Mars, but throughout the stars. Messages we believed were meant for us. Perhaps they were always meant for you. Impossible, whispered High Archivist Tai as she stood before the human delegation. Her silvery skin shimmered under Earth's sunlight, the first natural light her species had experienced in generations. You were supposed to be extinct, she continued. The original ones. The seed bearers. Hyunjin, Earth's chief diplomat, stepped forward. I assure you, we are very much alive. The custodians shared their historical records. Humanity wasn't just another spacefaring race. They were the first. Ancient humans had seeded the stars with life, established the foundations of faster-than-light travel, and then mysteriously vanished. Your genetic structure, Tae explained, displaying holographic models of DNA. It contains coded information, a message from your ancestors. Ju studied the projection. These aren't natural sequences. They're engineered. Yes, Tae confirmed. Your bodies carry the accumulated knowledge of your species, memories and technology your ancestors wish to preserve. The meeting room fell silent. Outside the windows of the United Nations building, crowds gathered in the streets, their faces turned upward to the massive ships hovering in the sky. News screens everywhere showed the same images, the alien visitors who called themselves custodians. Hyunjin cleared his throat. You must understand how difficult this is for us to believe. Our history books say we evolved on this planet. We have fossil records, archaeological evidence. Tahi moved her long, slender fingers through the air. The holographic display changed to show a timeline. Your recorded history is but a blink in the greater story of your species. Ju stood up from her seat and walked closer to the projection. You're saying humans existed millions of years ago, as an advanced civilization. Not millions, Tae corrected. Billions. Your kind was among the first intelligent life in this galaxy. President Lee leaned forward. If what you say is true, what happened to this advanced civilization? Why did we start over? Tahi's large black eyes reflected the light of the hologram. We had hoped you could tell us. The disappearance of the elder humans is the greatest mystery in galactic history. Sunwoo, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. These codes in our DNA, can we access them? With our help, yes, Tae said. But it will not be easy. The information was locked away deliberately. Later that day, at a secure facility beneath Mount Hala, Ju watched as Tae and 3 other custodians set up strange equipment around a medical bed. Are you sure about this? Sunwoo asked, standing at her side. Ju nodded. Someone has to go first. I discovered their outpost on Mars. It feels right that it should be me. Hyunjin entered the room with President Lee. The Security Council has approved the procedure, but only if you're truly willing, Dr. Park. I am, Ju said simply. Tae approached. The process will put you in a dreamlike state. Your mind will interface with the locked memories in your genetic code. We cannot predict what you will see. Will it hurt? Ju asked. No, but it may change you. Tae's voice was gentle. Knowledge often does. Ju lay down on the bed. The custodians placed small, glowing devices around her head. Tae spoke soft words in an alien language, and the devices rose into the air, forming a spinning circle. Close your eyes, Tae instructed. Listen to the rhythm of your own heart. Ju obeyed. At first, she felt nothing. Then warmth spread from her chest to her limbs. Colors swirled behind her closed eyelids. Suddenly, she was no longer in the room. She stood on a hill overlooking a vast city unlike anything on modern Earth. Buildings of impossible shapes reached into a purple sky where multiple moons hung. People moved about below, but they were not quite human, taller, with subtle differences in their proportions. A voice spoke beside her. She turned to see a woman in flowing white garments. Her face was hauntingly familiar. Hello, descendant, the woman said. I am Sora, Chief Archivist of Earth, speaking to you across time. How is this possible? Ju asked. We encoded this message in the basic genetic structure of our kind. As long as our children survived and continued to reproduce, this memory would remain, waiting to be awakened when the time was right. Why? Why hide your existence from us? Sora's expression grew sad. Because we failed. We reached too far. We thought ourselves gods. The scene changed. Ju saw massive ships leaving Earth, stars being seeded with life, worlds transformed. Then something dark spreading across the galaxy, a shadow that consumed light. What is that? Ju asked, fear in her voice. Our greatest mistake, Sora said. We created life across the stars, but we also created something else, something that turned against all life. We couldn't stop it. Our only hope was to hide, to start again, to hope our descendants might find a better way. Back in the facility, Juwoo's body convulsed. The monitoring equipment showed her brain activity spiking to dangerous levels. Pull her out, Sunwoo demanded. We cannot, Taehi said, her silver face showing concern. The process must complete naturally. In the vision, Juwoo watched as the ancient humans made a terrible choice. They returned to Earth, disabled their advanced technology, and altered their own genetic makeup to forget their past. We hid the truth in your very cells, Sora explained, along with the knowledge to face the darkness when it returns. And it will return, descendant. It always does. How will we know when? Ju asked. The custodians, our final creation. We made them to watch over the younger races, to guide them, and to alert you when the time comes. Sora reached out and touched Juwoo's face. Their arrival means the cycle begins again. The darkness approaches. Juwoo gasped and sat up on the bed. The floating devices clattered to the floor. Everyone in the room stared at her. Sunwoo, Hyunjin, President Lee, and the custodians. Are you all right? Sunwoo asked, rushing to her side. Juwoo looked at her hands, half expecting them to look different. They were the same, but she felt changed. I saw them, she whispered. I spoke with them, our ancestors. Taehi stepped forward. What did they show you? Everything. Why they disappeared. Why they chose to forget. Juwoo looked up at the custodian. You were their final creation, weren't you? Made to watch over the galaxy until we were ready. Taehi bowed her head. Yes. We are your guardians, your servants. We have waited eons for your return. But why now? President Lee asked. Why have you come at this moment? Juwoo's face was pale. Because something else is coming. Something our ancestors couldn't defeat. She turned to Taehi. That's why you're really here, isn't it? Not just to pay homage to a dead civilization. You need our help. Taehi's large eyes seemed to fill with an emotion that transcended species. Yes, the darkness your ancestors fled. It stirs again at the edges of the galaxy. The elder humans encoded the knowledge to fight it within you. But we're just starting to explore our own solar system, Hyunjin said. How can we possibly fight something that defeated an advanced civilization? Because, Taehi said, your ancestors planned for this moment. Everything they hid within you, it was for this purpose. You are their secret weapon, hidden in plain sight. Deep beneath Seoul's rebuilt districts, Do-Hyun led the exploration team through newly discovered chambers. These structures predate our oldest civilizations, he explained to the mixed human custodian team. What we thought were natural geological formations are actually ancient machines. Across Earth, similar discoveries emerged. The Mariana Trench housed energy generators. The pyramids of Giza marked access points to subterranean networks. The moon itself was revealed to be partially artificial, a monitoring station watching over Earth. As humans activated these systems, the dormant technology responded to their genetic signatures. Hyunjin became the first to successfully interface with the ancestral systems, unlocking memories not his own. I can see them, he gasped. Our ancestors. They didn't vanish. They chose to remain here, to start over. News of humanity's resurgence spread across the galaxy. Not all received it well. Many younger species feared the return of the terrible makers, the name some had given humanity in their absence. The air in the underground chamber was cool and dry. Do-Yun's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing walls covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift and move when not directly observed. "How deep are we?" asked Minjae, the geologist. "Almost 2 kilometers," Do-Yun replied. "Below even the deepest subway tunnels." Behind them walked 2 custodians. Their silver skin provided its own soft light in the darkness. Tahi, now serving as Earth's main contact with the custodians, moved with careful grace. The other, named Daiyun, carried equipment that hummed softly. "The energy readings are stronger here," Daiyun said. "This chamber is active." Do-Yun stopped at a wall that looked different from the others. It was smooth, almost like glass, but completely black. "This is new. We didn't see this yesterday." Tahi stepped forward. "It is responding to our presence, more specifically, to yours." She turned to Do-Yun. "The blood tests showed your genetic markers are particularly close to the original pattern. The systems recognize you." Do-Yun hesitated, then placed his hand on the black surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then light spread from his fingers, creating ripples across the wall. The black surface became transparent, revealing a vast space beyond. "A hidden room," Minjae whispered. But it was more than that. As they stepped through the doorway, lights activated automatically, illuminating what appeared to be a control center. Curved consoles rose from the floor. Screens made of some unknown material displayed information in an ancient script. "Can you read this?" Do-Yun asked Toddy. "Some. It is the language of the elder humans. We have preserved it as a sacred text." She pointed to one of the displays. "This shows a map of Earth, but from long ago. The continents are in different positions." Minjae examined the map. "That would make this place at least 200 million years old. That's impossible." "Not for them," Dahyun said softly. "The elder humans had mastered time in ways we still do not understand." Do-Yun approached the central console. It lit up as he got closer. A voice spoke from nowhere, in a language he couldn't understand. Yet somehow, he felt he knew what it was saying. "It wants me to connect with it," he said, more to himself than the others. "Be careful," Tae warned. "The memories stored in these systems are powerful. They can overwhelm an unprepared mind." Do-Yun placed his hands on the console. The material felt warm, almost alive. Light surrounded his hands, then traveled up his arms. He felt a strange sensation, like falling while standing still. Meanwhile, similar discoveries were happening across the planet. In Egypt, a team led by Dr. Yunid discovered that the Great Pyramid contained a chamber that had been hidden from all previous explorations. Inside was technology that defied modern understanding. "It's a power source," Yunid explained to President Lee over a video call. "It's been running for thousands of years. The pyramid shape itself is part of the design. It channels energy from the Earth's core." In the Mariana Trench, remote submarines found structures that resembled giant engines embedded in the ocean floor. When activated by nearby human presence, they began cleaning the surrounding water, removing pollutants and restoring the chemical balance. The most shocking discovery came from the moon. A joint mission of astronauts and custodians found that large portions of the moon's interior were hollow, containing vast machinery. The moon itself was partly artificial, positioned perfectly to stabilize Earth's orbit and climate. They'd rebuilt the entire moon. Astronaut Juno reported back to Earth. "They shaped it like a natural satellite, but it's actually a monitoring station. It's been watching Earth for millions of years." Back in Seoul, Do-Yun remained connected to the ancient system for hours. When he finally broke the connection, his eyes were wide with wonder and fear. "I saw them," he told the others. "Our ancestors. They didn't die out or leave. They're still here." "What do you mean?" Minjae asked. "They changed themselves, reduced their technology, altered their memories. But they stayed on Earth. We are them, not just their descendants. We are the same people, reborn generation after generation. Tehi looked troubled. Why would they do this? To hide from the darkness. Yes, but not just to hide. Doyen's voice was filled with new confidence. To prepare. They knew the darkness would return eventually. They left all this technology dormant, waiting for the right moment. Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly through the faster-than-light communication network maintained by the custodians. Humanity, the legendary elder species, had not gone extinct, but had hidden themselves on their homeworld. Now they were awakening, reclaiming their ancient knowledge. On a planet circling a distant star, the Council of Allied Species met in emergency session. Representatives from 100 different worlds gathered to discuss the implications. The terrible makers have returned, said Callan, representative of the Volus Confederation. This changes everything. They are not the terrible makers, argued Sen of the Lorithi. They are just primitive humans who have learned of their heritage. For now, Callan replied. But they are activating the old systems. Soon, they will remember how to build world breakers and star eaters. The weapons that nearly destroyed the galaxy before. The debate continued for days. Some species advocated for immediate isolation of Earth. Others suggested more drastic measures. The custodians, once respected as neutral guardians, were now viewed with suspicion for their role in humanity's awakening. On Earth, unaware of the galactic politics their reemergence had triggered, humans continued to discover more of their hidden legacy. In a secure facility in New Seoul, Gunjin had volunteered to try a more direct interface with the ancestral systems. Unlike Do-Yun's partial connection, Gunjin was fully immersed in the ancient memory banks. His body lay still on a medical bed, while his mind explored the vast library of knowledge left by the elder humans. When he finally awoke, 3 days had passed. Ju, Sunwoo, and President Lee were waiting at his bedside. Did it work? President Lee asked. What did you learn? Hyunjin's eyes were different somehow. Older, wiser. Everything, he whispered. I know why they did it. Why they hid us away. The darkness isn't just coming. It's already here. The alliance of concerned species moved swiftly, establishing blockades around Earth's solar system. They fear what they don't understand, argued Minji, now commander of Earth's first true starship, retrofitted with recovered technology. Our ancestors were guardians, not conquerors. But the Alliance wouldn't listen. Their first strike targeted human colonies on Mars and Europa. They weren't prepared for the response. Defense systems dormant for millennia activated automatically, shielding human settlements with technology beyond even the custodians' understanding. During the battle, something unexpected happened. Humans under stress manifested abilities no one had anticipated, psychic connections with the ancient systems. Chu, now leading the research into human origins, made a crucial discovery. Our ancestors deliberately regressed our civilization, she told the Emergency Council. They knew something was coming, something that destroys advanced civilizations. They hid us in plain sight, appearing primitive until the time was right. As if confirming her theory, long-range sensors detected a disturbance at the galaxy's edge. The true enemy approached. Minji stood on the bridge of the starship Hansik, Earth's first true interstellar vessel. Through the view screen, she could see the blockade, 50 alien ships forming a net around the solar system. Behind her, the crew worked at stations that blended human and ancient technology. They're hailing us again, said Chunno, the communications officer. Minji nodded. Put them through. The face that appeared on the screen wasn't human or custodian. It had rough, reptilian features with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. This is Admiral Kresh of the Alliance Defense Force. Your vessel will turn back immediately. Earth is under quarantine by order of the Council. Minji kept her voice calm. Admiral, we are on a peaceful mission to establish communication with the outer colonies. We carry no weapons. This was only partly true. The Hansik carried no conventional weapons, But the ancient systems integrated into the ship could do things even Minji didn't fully understand. All human vessels are considered threats, Kresh replied. The quarantine is non-negotiable. The elder humans nearly destroyed the galaxy once. We will not allow it to happen again. The screen went dark. Minji turned to her first officer, Haniel. Options. Haniel studied the tactical display. We can't outrun them. Their ships are faster. We could try to slip past using the phase shift technology, but we've never tested it at full scale. Minji considered this. The phase shift was one of the recovered technologies. It could theoretically move the ship slightly out of normal space, making it invisible and untouchable. But using untested ancient technology was risky. We need to reach the Europa colony, she said finally. They're the most vulnerable, with only basic defenses. Prepare for phase shift. On Earth, an emergency council meeting was underway. President Lee stood before representatives from every nation, along with Tahi and other custodians. The Alliance has made their position clear, President Lee said. They consider humanity a threat and will maintain their blockade indefinitely. Hyunjin, who had become something of an ambassador between modern humans and their ancestral knowledge, spoke up. They don't understand that we're not the same as the elder humans. We don't seek conquest. But we are awakening the same technologies, Ju pointed out. From their perspective, that makes us dangerous. Sunwoo, now head of Earth's defense forces, displayed a hologram of the solar system. We've detected movement near Mars and Europa. The Alliance is positioning attack ships. President Lee's face darkened. They wouldn't dare attack civilian colonies. They would, Tae said softly. The fear of the elder humans runs deep in many species. Some believe it would be better to eliminate humanity entirely than risk the return of the terrible makers. The room fell silent as this sank in. Ju stood up. I need to show you something. She activated her own display, showing complex DNA sequences. I've been studying the encoded memories in our genetic structure. There's a pattern I didn't see before. The display zoomed in on certain sections of the DNA. Our ancestors didn't just hide their technology and knowledge. They hid something else, something about themselves. Ju looked around the room. The elder humans had abilities beyond physical technology. They could interact with reality in ways we would consider impossible. What are you saying? President Lee asked. I'm saying we might have those same abilities, dormant within us. Under the right circumstances, like extreme stress or danger, they might activate. Before anyone could respond, alarm sounded. Sunwoo rushed to check incoming reports. They're attacking, he announced. Alliance forces have opened fire on Mars Colony 1 and the Europa Research Station. In space, the battle began without warning. Alliance ships fired energy weapons at the human settlements, expecting easy destruction of the primitive colonies. Instead, their weapons met invisible barriers. The colonies glowed with blue light as ancient defense systems, buried deep within the Martian soil and Europa's ice, activated automatically. On Europa, colonists watched in awe as the ice around their station melted, revealing massive structures that had been hidden for millennia. These structures projected shields that the Alliance weapons couldn't penetrate. On the Hansik, Minji received the distress calls. Cancel the phase shift, she ordered. Set course for Europa. Maximum speed. But the blockade. Handel began. We'll have to deal with us, Minji finished. As the Hansik accelerated toward the blockade, Alliance ships moved to intercept. The first shots struck the Earth vessel directly, but instead of exploding, the ship absorbed the energy. The hull glowed momentarily, then released the energy back toward the attackers. Minji felt something strange happening. The ship's controls seemed to respond to her thoughts rather than her commands. She could sense the systems, feel them like extensions of her own body. Captain, your hands, Haniel said, staring. Minji looked down. Her hands were glowing with the same blue light as the ship's hull. Somehow, she had connected directly to the ancient systems. Similar phenomena occurred throughout the solar system. On Mars, Do-Yun found he could activate the buried machines with just a thought. On Europa, researchers discovered they could manipulate the ancient technology instinctively. Back on Earth, Ju presented her findings to the Council as reports of these abilities came in. "It's happening just as I predicted," she said. "Under threat, our dormant abilities are awakening. We're not just remembering who our ancestors were, we're becoming them." Tahi appeared troubled. "This is unexpected. Even we custodians have never witnessed such direct connection between elder humans and their technology." Sun Wu received another report and looked up in shock. "The Alliance is retreating. Their weapons are ineffective against the awakened defenses." Relief filled the room, but it was short-lived. "There's something else," Sun Wu continued. "Our long-range sensors have detected an anomaly at the edge of the galaxy. Something massive is moving toward inhabited space." Tahi's silver skin paled to almost white. "It has begun. The darkness returns." "What exactly is this darkness?" President Li demanded. "We need to know what we're facing." Ju and Hyunjin exchanged glances. Together, they had pieced together more of the ancestral memories than anyone else. "It's not a species or a weapon," Hyunjin explained. "It's more like a force of nature. Our ancestors called it the Void. It consumes advanced civilizations, drawn to them like a predator to light. That's why they hid," Ju added. "They discovered that the Void was attracted to their technology, their psychic abilities, their very presence in the galaxy. So they made the hardest choice possible. They regressed, became primitive again, and waited." "Waited for what?" Sun Wu asked. "For the right moment," Ju said quietly. "When they would be ready to face it once and for all." Hyunjin stood on the observation deck of humanity's first seed ship, watching as the combined fleet of former enemies gathered around Earth. "The cycle has returned," explained Tae, now Earth's closest ally, "as it has every 50,000 years. But this time, we're ready," Hyunjin replied. "Because my ancestors faced this before." The full genetic memory had been unlocked. Ancient humans hadn't fled or gone extinct. They had chosen Earth as their sanctuary, regressing their own technology and embedding their knowledge into their descendants' DNA to be awakened when needed. The approaching cosmic storm, a wave of energy that wiped clean advanced technological civilizations, would find something different this time. The network of devices planted throughout the galaxy by ancient humans began activating, creating a protective field. As the storm struck, humanity stood not as conquerors of the galaxy but as its defenders, the elder race who had sacrificed their own advancement to ensure life would continue. The cycle was broken, and in the aftermath, a new galactic community emerged, one that recognized humanity not with fear, but with gratitude. The massive observation window gave Hyunjin a clear view of Earth below. The blue-green planet seemed small against the vastness of space, yet it had housed the most powerful secret in the galaxy, humanity itself. Beside him, Tahi's silver skin reflected the starlight. In the 2 months since the Alliance's failed attack, the custodian had become more than an ally. She was a friend. "They are arriving," she said, pointing to the flashes of light as ships emerged from faster-than-light travel. The Alliance fleet came first. The same ships that had tried to quarantine Earth now returned as reluctant allies. Behind them came vessels from 100 different worlds, each unique in design and purpose. "I never thought I would see this," Tae said softly. "The galaxy united." Hyunjin nodded. "Fear is a powerful motivator." The door to the observation deck slid open. Ju entered, followed by Minji and Sunwoo. All three had changed in the past months. Like Hyunjin, they had connected deeply with the ancestral memories, awakening abilities that had lain dormant in human DNA for millennia. "The final systems are coming online," Ju reported. "The network is at 90% capacity." "And the Void?" Hyunjin asked. Minji's face was grim. 6 days away, moving faster than we predicted. It's already consumed the outer systems in the Sagittarius arm. Sun Wu activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. A shadow moved across the spiral arms, leaving emptiness in its wake. "What happens to the worlds it touches?" asked a new voice. President Lee had arrived, accompanied by representatives from Earth's major nations. "It doesn't destroy the planets themselves," Zhu explained. "It feeds on advanced energy patterns, technology, complex biological systems, consciousness itself. It leaves the physical world intact but empty of what we would call life or civilization." "How many times has this happened before?" asked the European representative. "At least 5 complete cycles," Tehi said. "Each time, the most advanced civilizations fall. Simpler life survives and evolves. Eventually, new intelligent species emerge, discover the ruins of those who came before, and the cycle continues. Until now," Hyunjin added, "our ancestors broke the pattern. Instead of fighting or fleeing, they hid. They made themselves simple enough to be overlooked while preserving their knowledge." On the main bridge of the seed ship, activity reached fever pitch. Humans and aliens worked side by side, preparing for humanity's most ambitious plan. Do Yun, now chief engineer of the vessel, monitored the ship's unique systems. Unlike conventional spacecraft, the seed ship wasn't designed for exploration or combat. Its purpose was far grander. "Energy levels at maximum," he reported as Hyunjin and the others arrived on the bridge. "The ship is ready." President Lee took a moment to look around the bridge. "Are we sure this will work? We're risking everything on theories and memories." "Not just memories," Hyunjin said. "Our ancestors left us more than knowledge. They left us a plan, one they spent millions of years perfecting." The plan was audacious. Throughout the galaxy, the elder humans had hidden networks of devices on thousands of worlds. These devices, dormant until now, were designed to work together, creating a field that could contain and redirect the void. The seed ship would serve as the control hub, coordinating the entire network, but it required more than technology. It needed the direct mental connection that only awakened humans could provide. "It's time," Zhu said, checking the time display. "We need to take our positions." Across the seed ship, 27 humans who had shown the strongest connection to the ancestral systems prepared for their roles. They entered special chambers designed to amplify their abilities. Hyunjin took his place in the central chamber. As the door sealed, he felt a moment of doubt. What if the plan failed? What if the ancient memories were wrong? Then he felt it, the presence of countless ancestors in his mind, their knowledge flowing through him. They had faced this moment before, had prepared for it across eons. Initiating network synchronization, Do-Hyun's voice came through the speakers, all nodes responding. Hyunjin closed his eyes. He could see the network spreading across the galaxy, points of light connecting into a vast web. Through the genetic memory, he understood its purpose more clearly than any technical explanation could provide. The void wasn't evil. It wasn't even truly alive in any conventional sense. It was more like a natural force, a cosmic cleansing that occurred when energy patterns in the galaxy became too complex, too bright. The elder humans had discovered that fighting it directly only made it stronger, feeding it with the very energy they used against it. The solution wasn't to destroy the void, but to redirect it, to channel its power into something new. "The void has entered the containment zone," Minji reported from the tactical station, network holding at full capacity. Outside the seed ship, the combined fleet took defensive positions. They weren't there to fight the void directly. Their purpose was to protect the seed ship until its work was complete. In his chamber, Hyunjin reached out with his mind, connecting with the other humans throughout the ship. Together, they formed a collective consciousness that could manage the entire network. "I can see it," he whispered, though no one could hear him. "It's beautiful in its way." The void appeared at the edge of the solar system, not as a physical thing, but as an absence, a darkness that consumed light and energy. It moved with purpose toward Earth, drawn by the reawakened power of humanity. Activating final phase, Do-Hyun announced. May our ancestors guide us. Through the network, Hyunjin felt the surge of power as every device activated simultaneously. The void touched the edge of the field and stopped. For a moment that seemed to stretch forever, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the darkness began to change. It swirled, condensed, and transformed. Instead of spreading outward, it began to fold in on itself. On the bridge, alarms sounded as sensors tried to make sense of what was happening. The void is changing, Ju said in wonder. It's becoming something else. Where the darkness had been, a new light emerged, not blinding or harsh, but soft and steady. The energy of the void hadn't been destroyed. It had been transformed. In his chamber, Hyunjin understood. This had been the true plan all along. Not to fight the darkness, but to change it, to complete a cycle that had been left unfinished millions of years ago. The ancestor's voice spoke in his mind. Balance, not destruction. That was always the answer. 3 days later, when it was finally over, the combined fleet gathered around Earth once more, not in fear, but in celebration. The void was gone, transformed into a new kind of energy that spread through the galaxy, strengthening and stabilizing all life rather than consuming it. On the observation deck, Hyunjin stood with Ju-woo, Sunwoo, Minji, and Tae, watching the ships depart for their home worlds. What happens now? Sunwoo asked. Hyunjin smiled. We rebuild. We remember. We go forward, not as the terrible makers or the elder species, but as what our ancestors always intended us to be, guardians of life. And the genetic memories? Ju asked. Do we keep them active or return to being just human? We remain who we are, Hyunjin said, with knowledge of who we were. That's what makes us different from those who came before. They chose to forget to survive. We choose to remember to thrive. As the last ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, Earth glowed blue and green below them. The cradle of a species that had sacrificed everything, even their own identity, to ensure life would continue. Not conquerors but protectors. Not terrible makers but patient guardians. The cycle was broken, and a new age had begun.